Hello and welcome to the show. And our today's guest is a Bangladeshi-American medical doctor from New York. He's determined to bridge the gap between patients and healthcare insurance services through education, information, and empowerment. Currently, she runs her own healthcare insurance consulting practice based out of Tampa, Florida, and she's serving clients all over the nation. She offers her consultations at no charge, and with her medical education and training from Bangladesh, an award-winning global experience in public health and understanding healthcare system is only just a ferret of her jewel. Her latest research publications in Journal of American College Health shines light on the topic of a stark lack of infertility services for women seeking higher education in universities across America. Now, I'm very honored to have you on the show here, and she's none other than Noor A Ali. So, welcome to the show, and how are you feeling today?
Hi, thank you so much, Mahmoud, for having me. Thank you. I'm honored as well to be a part of your journey and your show. Feeling good today. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great as well.
Okay, because we're on opposite ends of the world, right? It's my day afternoon and it's your nighttime, right?
Absolutely. It's 10 p.m. here.
Okay, yeah. And it's noon over here. So it's wonderful to be connected, even though we're halfway across the world.
Yeah. Yeah. So tell us about your journey and how did everything got started for you and why did you become a doctor?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. So I was born in Bangladesh. I'm originally from Dhaka. My mom is from North Bengal, from Gaibandha. And we immigrated to the United States, to New York in 1995. So I pretty much grew up in New York City, my mom, my dad, me, my little sister. But at one point we had to move back home to Bangladesh when one of my grandparents died. My grandfather passed away. So we had to move back home to take care of my grandmother. And that's when I decided to attend medical school. I was heavily influenced by my grandfather growing up. He was an anesthesiologist. He had global experience as well. He graduated medical school in 1954. And this is when Dhaka Medical College wasn't even established. It was still medical college under Dhaka University. So that's when he started medical school. And then he went abroad to London, to Africa, and he practiced all over the world. So growing up, he was a very big influence in my life. And I wanted to be just like that as well, to be more of a global physician like him.
Interesting, really interesting to know the background. So how did his death affected you?
His death, it was really rough. Growing up, I was so little. I would always think that he's like all powerful and invincible and immortal and he would never die, because he was such a big role model in my life. I couldn't even comprehend a world where my grandfather would not be in my life. So his death was, first of all, difficult to accept that. Well, now I guess he is mortal, he's human and he's dead. But also it made me feel very like a strong resolve and determination that I'm going to fulfill this dream that I had. I'm going to complete this empowerment that I had, that I want to grow up and be just like him.
Amazing to hear that story. So what things are you actually proud of, like in your journey from like having that ambition to where you are now?
Yeah, thank you for asking. I'm proud of actually, getting into medical school and graduating. I know a lot of people who want to grow up and be a doctor or whose parents want them to be a doctor. Not all of those dreams are always fulfilled. And there's so many roadblocks and so many challenges along the way. Passing the entrance exams is one block, right? Passing through your daily tests and exams and having good grades throughout medical school to continue to the next grade, the next level is a challenge. Enjoying it, not falling into depression and making it through medical school is important. The licensing exams. So I'm very proud that I was able to actually make it through each and every step and come out and graduate and fulfill my own dreams.
Okay. Interesting. So like, what are your values, you can say? Like, can you tell about two of your values and a story connected with it?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question too. And I think this is, I don't know if everyone can just instantaneously answer this, because I feel like you have something you have to think about. And I'm glad that you're asking this now, because I've put a lot of thought into what my values are for the past few months. And I've been thinking really deep and hard. So I'll tell you my top 3 values, and you tell me which ones you want me to discuss today. My top 3 values are education, love, and service. What would you like me to discuss?
Education.
Education. Okay. Yeah, this is an interesting one, because somebody else asked me this question, what my values are. And when I said education, they kind of just like brushed it aside, like, oh, that's boring. Who wants to talk about education? But I realize now how important this is to me, because I consider myself a lifelong learner, just like you. I noticed that you put that in one of your descriptors. And what does that really mean? So for me, I guess we all start institutionalized education at the age of maybe 3, 4, 5, right? Nursery, kindergarten. So for me, that journey started when I was 3, and it didn't stop until I was 29. So between the ages of 3 and 29, I've always been in some type of school. So it was, kindergarten, elementary, middle school, high school, medical school, and then a training, and then master. So it's been back to back to back to back education. And for some people that would sound like, oh God, that sounds awful. That sounds horrible. All that schooling, who wants to do that? But I really enjoy being a student and learning and being in school. In fact, after my latest completion of my latest master's degree in 2019, I graduated with a master's in public health. I was quite lost. And if I just after I finished graduation, I had a baby. So that 1 year in 2020, my mind was a little occupied with being a first-time mother and taking care of a baby. But then after I got settled to that, I was like, well, when am I going to go back to school? What am I going to study next? So education has always been such an important part of my life that I don't really know what to do without it. And I'm always seeking, well, what's the next thing I can do? What's the next level of learning that I can seek out?
Really interesting. Now, so what is the difference for you? Like, what's the difference between education and learning for you?
I mean, there is no difference for me. I'm accustomed to institutionalized education, but more and more that dynamic is changing in the world. We don't have to go to school. We don't have to pay high tuition to learn. We can learn from online resources for free, such as YouTube, Google. Before maybe those weren't as verified, valid sources to obtain education, but now more and more they are. We can go through credible sources on the internet to gain education, and every single platform is having their own version of learning. There's LinkedIn learning, right? There's so many like nuggets of information that you can get, and books, the library, there's free education all around us. So more and more, where the way the world is changing and the dynamic is changing, education is no longer just institutionalized. I have to get up and go to a building, sit down in a class to learn something. You can learn something from your phone 24/7.
Absolutely. I completely agree with the statement, because this is the new reality that you are learning from your home, especially your phone. Now, so the next thing I want to talk about is why did you actually wanted to, or like aim to consult people for free?
Thank you so much for asking. That's also a wonderful question. And I think about this a lot. And I realize that I've actually never really charged anyone for my services, whether that's a medical consultation or for this business and health insurance consultation. And I just feel really guilty kind of doing that. I feel like, well, I have all of this knowledge that I've worked hard to gain and acquire. How can I ask someone for money or payment just to share this knowledge? So even when I was practicing medicine in Bangladesh, I never charged anyone for any consultation. It was always free advice. So to me, I just think like, well, I have this knowledge. It's just a matter of sharing this knowledge and helping someone else. And I always felt really bad asking for compensation for that.
Oh, got it. So one thing though, so when did you actually practice in Bangladesh? What year actually?
Yeah, so I graduated med school 2013. So I stayed for about a year, 2013, 14, and a little bit of 2015 before I came back to United States. I practiced.
Okay, interesting. So how was your experience working here? What's the difference of working here versus in United States?
Are you talking about medicine?
Yeah.
Practicing medicine?
Yeah.
Okay, it is night and day. It is night and day. It is so different. Not only well, the dynamic and the demographic is different, and that really dictates how we as doctors practice medicine. So look at the patient population. You know, the socioeconomic status, the healthcare system in Bangladesh, and those two determinants really make a difference in how physicians practice and deliver care. So in Bangladesh, it's more pay per service. You know, you pay money for your treatment and then you get your treatment, right? You get a prescription. If you can afford to pay for your pills, that's your treatment. And if you can't, sorry, you can't. Whereas in the United States, everything is through a system of insurance. You know, you're not paying anything directly, but you're getting the service first. And then your provider or your physician is billing for your service for compensation for that service through your insurance company. So it's a more complicated system in the States. And because of that, there's pros and cons to each situation. In Bangladesh, I feel like because there's no system, there's no complicated system to go around, everything is much more direct. You come to me with symptoms, I evaluate you, here's your test, here's your treatment. Whereas in the States, because there's a lot of ways, there's a lot of steps to go through. There's also a lot of chances for corruption, for abuse of the system. So if I'm presenting to a doctor with, let's say, two or three complaints, the doctor can run maybe 10 tests that I may or may not need. Right. Whereas in Bangladesh, it's very pointed and direct. You're like, well, I'm going to form a diagnosis in my head and I'm going to give you one or two tests that's aligned with the diagnosis in my head. So those are some of the pros and cons that I've noticed.
I agree and disagree at the same time. Like, I don't know about US. I know like a corruption might take place there. And I've seen a lot of people actually talking about it. Like, there is a lot of corruption in terms of insurance companies and medical practices. And in Bangladesh, what happens is like my mother went to like stays sick sometimes, and in a number of hospitals, what happens is they're gonna give you tests you don't need, like let's say blood test. So let's say your blood group, like your blood group will not change in your lifetime, right? So, but they're going to test it, like you need to test it. Or it is just a small part of what other tests are given. So the same thing actually happens here as well. But like, I'm not sure about individual practitioners, but in major hospitals, this happens.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. There's corruption everywhere. I'm not saying that there isn't. Definitely there is, but that really depends on the practitioner and the system that they're under. You know, like large hospital systems, the reason they feel like they can do that and they can get away with that is, again, back to that patient demographic and that socioeconomic status. If they feel like, well, this family can afford these tests, I'm just going to go and give them, right? Whereas if they're working with someone who, you know, we know that this patient can hardly even afford their treatment, let alone all these tests, they might think twice before giving that extra blood test. And there's a scope to do that in Bangladesh. Whereas here in the States, they're not going to differentiate between that because it's not the patient who's paying directly. It's going through the insurance company. So, you know, they're not going to discriminate between a patient who can afford more or a patient who can afford less. They're going to run the same test for the same treatment plan.
I think the same thing happens. Yeah. So now, and the next thing I want to talk about is basically the stereotypes related to entrepreneurship in the Bengali community, not just in Bangladesh but also in US. Like,
yeah, thank you. I'm so glad that you pointed that out, not just in Bangladesh, but in Bengali communities all over the world, because that social stigma stems from environmental upbringings from childhood. And if we grew up in Bangladesh, or our families or older generations that are part of the family unit are from Bangladesh, that stigma carries on no matter where you are in the world. And the stereotype really is that, you know, you're going to work hard, you're going to get education, you're going to get higher education, and then you're going to get a quote unquote good job. And there's very loosely defined what is a good job and what does that really mean? What does good job mean? Right. And then that's it. And that's life. And that's really the point of it, is get as much education as you can and then go get a job. So entrepreneurship and the risk that is involved with entrepreneurship is really not, it's kind of frowned upon in our society, because I think that maybe the Bengali community doesn't take well to that risk. What do you think?
My parents don't.
Yeah. So how do you deal with that? How do you overcome that challenge when you believe in yourself, but it's difficult to make your community believe in you?
That's a really great question. So I'm actually still dealing with it. It's not like I have to go out on my own, like take responsibility for every single thing I do. Like that's the main thing. So in the long run, let's say. So I can point out a quote that I heard from Gary Vee. You are in US, so you must know him.
Yes.
So he said that parents are gonna tell this every single time, like no matter what, because they care about it, about you, and that's what they learned. But after after reaching a point when you're successful, when you're happy and you're secured, they're gonna just say, "That's what I wanted all along." Yeah, and that's what I am heading towards. So I'm not saying, I'm not fighting over it. No, I'm going to do it. I'm fighting over it. No, this is wrong. This is wrong. No, let it happen. I'm going to work on myself to a point when they're going to be proud of. And sorry, not proud of, but they're going to say, yeah, that's what I meant all the time.
Yeah, that's really funny. That's interesting, because you're right. Well, all parents, whether it's Bengali parents or any other parents, they just want their children to be happy, right? But they don't know that middle journey. You're looking at the content online, you're looking at Gary Vee's stuff, you're looking at entrepreneurship and how to do it, but they're not. So you believe you can do it. You know that what you need to do to achieve that goal, but your parents don't know that. And it's very difficult for you to explain that or for you to show them that, because all they know is what they know from their experiences, and their experience is not entrepreneurship. So how can you convince them of what entrepreneurship can be, other than just keep going, wait for the day, for the results to show them like, well, this is what I was working towards, and now I'm happy. So sometimes there's really nothing that we can do other than just keep going and believe in ourselves until that day that you have that tangible result that you can show to your parents, well, this is what I was working towards.
Absolutely. So what your obstacles, or let's say like when you were starting out in entrepreneurship, so what obstacles were in front of you and what challenges were there?
Yeah, I would say the same challenges that anyone else in entrepreneurship faces, like the uncertainty, the risk of not having a regular salary coming in, regularly, working in commission only, starting from scratch and having to figure it out, making the wrong decisions and bad investments. We all go through that. So my challenges were really convincing my family and everyone around me that, hey, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. So and another challenge I had was the times that I had to convince myself, can I do this? Because we all have ups and downs. Because even now it's been almost 3 years, right, in my journey, and I'm doing so good. But even now I ask myself, well, can I do this? Even though I have been doing it. And even I forget myself that, well, you did it. You're still doing it. I still think to myself, can I do this?
Okay, so an interesting point came to my mind here, that was there any point in your journey in the past 3 years where you thought like this is not exactly working and you have to pivot to another thing, or like say completely change the way you are doing things? Was there any point in your journey?
Maybe not completely pivot or change the way that I do things, because I can get very tunnel visioned when I have a goal. So I know that if I'm going to make this work, I have to stick to it. And it's not just going to be like, oh, well, I tried it for 6 months and it didn't work, so I'm going to move on. I'm not like that. So that's my personality. If I have a goal, I'm going to make sure that I see it to end. But this is for all entrepreneurship and business owners. If you're not keeping up with the times, you're going to fall behind. So I wouldn't say that I had to make a change or a pivot, but I did have to acknowledge that the way I'm doing business has to change because of COVID, or because, people are on their phones more, or they're on social media more. So I need to focus my presence online more. So I did have to make those dynamic changes, but that's everyone, right? We have to always take into account how our environment is changing, how the world around us is changing, and modify our business practice accordingly.
Absolutely. Though what I did is, you can say in the past 1 year I pivoted 3 times.
Oh wow. Sorry, yeah. I don't mean to laugh at you. It's a lot. It's challenging.
I won't say challenging, because I saw potential. Like, let's say the first thing I was working on, and in business, the first sale you have to do is to yourself, and that was a big issue for me. So the first thing that I was doing, like, I was not able to sell to myself for some reason, and then so that's why I pivoted to the second thing, and then I have to the third thing, and then I pivoted again. Yeah, no, but in the third time I was able to sell myself quite good, like, you can say good. So so that's when I said to myself, like, no, this thing is good, I think, so far, and if I need to pivot again, I will.
Okay, that's good. I mean, if you're laughing about it and you're taking it in stride, I guess that's a good thing. So I think there's many people in your position who start out with like a big question mark, and they just don't know, especially in entrepreneurship. Like, they know they want to do it, but they don't know what they want to do. And it takes a lot of trial and error, and that's a big part of entrepreneurship. So I'm proud of you for being able to laugh about it, because you're learning, and that's a good thing. I think understanding that these pivots were learning experiences and not failures is a really important part.
Yeah, absolutely. So if someone says that, if someone asks me, did you fail in last 3 years, like, not 3 years, but in those pivotal moments, you can say, that were, you can say I failed in 3 businesses in that 1 year period. But I would say, like, no, I learned from those 3 experiences, and then I'm moving towards a lot fast, and I gain a lot more knowledge than I might have learned after 3 or 4 years in college. Like that, I can say that.
Right. That's amazing. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because learning through these experiences is so much, like you said, it's like fast tracked education, right? It's like you screw up, you fall, and you're like, okay, well, I'm not doing that again. But whereas, how could you have learned this if you didn't screw up? So you need these experiences to screw up. And that can be very hard to accept for us, for ourselves. Sometimes it can be hard to accept for our families, because to them, it's another like, oh, well, this isn't working. See, I told you it's not working. So it's difficult. It's really difficult. And I'm glad that you're at a comfortable position now that you can look back and you can laugh about it and think of it as a real learning experience.
Yeah, absolutely. But the thing, though, that happens in pivotal moments, that when you're starting out, you actually tell to every single person around you that you're doing this. Not everyone does that, but I did, though I'm an introvert, a serious introvert, but I did this for some reason. So after a period of time, I have to say, no, I'm not doing this, I'm doing this. I'm not doing this, I'm doing this. So that's the thing. And I learned this again, that this is not bad as well. So if you're pivoting towards a thing that you are genuinely interested in, then it's good. Then you're growing actually if you're pivoting, and the people and you will actually appreciate in the long run.
But you have to have a level of maturity to see that long run, to see that big picture, zoom out. And I don't recommend anyone starting an entrepreneurship journey if you don't have that stamina to look at the big picture and understand that you will not see a return for a while. You have to be patient for that return. So that's a really good advice, that you pointed out is having that maturity to see the long run, big picture.
Absolutely. And it takes time. Like the biggest true learning I'd say would be it takes time that you mentioned. It actually takes time, and it takes a broad vision. The both of the things that you said, like these two are really important things. And this is what I learned in the last year after the pivoting a lot.
Yeah. Good. Great lesson. Good summary.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's come back to you. So when you were starting out, so what things you had to learn at first in your journey? Like, what are the first step towards your journey?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So, this industry of business and insurance and entrepreneurship, I had no background whatsoever. I, studied science and medicine and public health. So those were my educational fortes. So entering this world, I had a very big learning curve and I knew nothing. But I came with the mindset and approach that, well, just because I have all this education in one sector does not mean I know anything about business and entrepreneurship. So I allowed myself to be a blank slate, to be receptive to learning and be coachable. So I would say that was very important for me and that helped me learn faster and absorb faster because I told myself that I know nothing about this. So I will take every knowledge that I can. I will absorb every knowledge that I can get. But once I, overcame that hurdle, I think a very big challenge in those building stages is finding that balance of copying what successful people around me are doing, as well as putting my own flavor into the way I do business. So because I don't know anything about this, I couldn't develop my own style. First, I had to learn from those who are already doing what I'm doing. I had to copy that. I had to mimic that success. But the way Gary Vee does something, or someone successful at my company does something, doesn't always align with my values or my personality or my style, right? So my struggle was, when do I inject my style? When do I insert the way I do business? So finding that balance of copying success and putting in my flavor and style, that took a little while to get to.
Amazing. So you actually said an amazing, really, really amazing point here, that following the people who are already successful, and every single person who are successful says this, because if you're facing any problem right now, then absolutely someone in the past, maybe not around it, but in the past had to overcome these challenges. Yeah. And so if you just study those or just copy them, directly copy them, and you're going to learn a lot.
Exactly. Yeah.
And just your flavor or your personality, and that's yours now.
Right. So, and that took time to achieve, because I had to learn a new industry. Then I had to copy success in my industry. And then I had to inject my flavor. And what I see, because I train a lot of, I mentor and I train a lot of new entrepreneurs in my space as well, is what I see is they come in and they try to put their own flavor from the start, which is not the right move, because you haven't mastered the base foundational of how to excel in this industry first. You have to copy that success first and then add your layer of personality on top. So that's something I see a lot, and I don't really agree with it.
Okay, interesting. So now, what do you say, like, what your mission in life is?
Mission in life. I think my mission in life is everything that I learn on a daily basis. I want to aggregate that and I want to distribute that to as many people as I can. So all the knowledge that I have gained in my life through my experiences, I want to spread that knowledge to as many people as I can.
Okay. And what's your vision would be? Like, let's say, where do you see yourself after 10 years?
10 years. By 10 years, I see myself. So my goal right now, what I'm working on my business is trying to earn the most amount of money by doing the least amount of work. So my goal in 10 years is really just to sit back and enjoy everything that I have built. And hopefully by then I'm not working as much as I'm working now, but I'm earning the most I've ever earned. Which is, I think, is a general, I guess, goal of entrepreneurship, right? Is to make as much money as you can in the shortest amount of time possible.
Yeah, maybe general, I don't know. Like I aim to do something different. What I see myself doing is I'm literally making more businesses, creating more businesses, because I have a plan of creating multiple businesses, like industrial businesses. That's I see myself working on there full time.
Okay. So you never stop working. You just want to work forever in multiple businesses.
Yeah. I see it fun. I see this as fun because it's about.
I'm glad that you mentioned the word fun, because in entrepreneurship, it's probably also relating to your pivots too. The things that you're doing day to day, if you're not happy and you don't enjoy doing it, you're going to be miserable because you're not necessarily, getting paid or monetizing all of your efforts instantaneously. That takes a little time, right? So if you're working towards building this business and you're not enjoying what you're doing every day, you're going to hate your life. So it's really important to have fun in what you do. So another advice that I give when I mentor a lot of people is create a brand or create a business around your skills. What are you good at doing? Because if it's easy for you and you're going to enjoy doing it every day.
Okay, I agree and disagree again.
Okay, why do you disagree?
Yeah, I agree that you actually need to do what you can enjoy. You want to enjoy, and disagree to the point that you have to consistently not do the things that you are like not that good at. The thing
to
is that,
improve. Sure.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
To improve
to
your
improve.
skills. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I'm saying if for example, I have zero athletic skills. If I build a sports company where I have to kick a soccer ball every day, I would hate my life. I can't even run like 2 minutes without like feeling like I'm going to die. So all I mean is, and that's something I have to work on, right? I have to work on more. I have to build my stamina, but I'm not going to build a company around athleticism and sports because that's not what my skill is, right? But my skill is, being on social media, talking to people, right? Helping other people, educating people. That's what I love doing. And that's what I do every day. So I enjoy working on my business. But that reminds me that I should really work out more and be more active because I suck at that.
Yeah, I also need to do the workout more because I'm pretty like I'm into fitness, not exactly fitness, but calisthenics from I don't know, maybe 2016, and I'm pretty regular with it. But for the past 1 or 2 months, I'm like I let go of everything. Like that's what. Yeah, so
consistency is the biggest struggle for everyone, right? No matter what it is, being consistent is so hard.
Yeah, the most hardest part for anything.
Right.
It not only like fitness, but also in like business or like let's
Right.
Yeah. So one thing though, like you like did you had to gain more sales skills to actually like grow your business?
Yes, 100%. Sales is such a big part of everything. And I don't care if you don't accept, not you, but in general, your listeners, if you don't accept this as a truth, but you're selling in everything that you do. You're selling, 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 selling. And I did not have any background in that. And I had to learn a lot about sales and selling. And that was everything, for every business. I think it's the core of every business on growth is knowing how to sell. And it's an art and it has to be done tactfully. And I think there's such a negative connotation to the word sales. Nobody wants to feel sold. Nobody wants to feel tricked. There's a lot of negative connotation surrounding that word, but I think it should be really viewed as it's a beautiful world. And if you are selling to the right person, they should feel like the sale is a solution. So I'd like to replace that word sales with solution. It shouldn't feel like you're being sold when someone is presenting to you a solution for your problem.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. So
Yeah.
how 100%. Everyone agrees with that. Every entrepreneur who is working towards something.
Yes.
And so how did you actually learn sales skills? So how did you learn did you read books or how did you do that?
I would say the two biggest ways I learned is cold calling, talking to people, getting hung up on, getting rejected, and learning how to overcome objections. And the best way to do that is to pick up the phone and get rejected over and over and over again. So cold calling was the number one way I learned sales skills. I read a lot of books. I read like 4 to 5 books a week. And it did teach me the principles, but there's no way to learn the skills unless you're calling and you're getting rejected. So cold calling is, I would say, the number one way I learned sales skills.
I suck at cold calling.
It's hard. I mean, I think everyone sucks at it unless you do it. And now if you hand me the phone and give it to me, I will confidently take it and say, oh, I got this. I'll master anything because I've gone through that. I've gone through that training of making 600 phone calls a day, getting rejected. And now I'm so confident in cold calling that I can handle anything. But I had to go through that to become this confident.
Okay. I think I've cold called people, but there is one, I have called reluctance and I have to overcome that. But the things that's working better for me, I would say, is like connecting with people. I'm more focused on building relationship with people than cold calling, because one, that's my superpower, you can say. I also didn't had that, but I learned that throughout, let's say, with the 1 year period. So actually going to people and then building relationship with them through talking.
Yeah. I don't think that's the same thing, though. I mean, that's very, very important. I think for sustaining a business, it's the core of it is always good relationships. If you and I have a good conversation and relationship, I'm going to recommend you. And that word of mouth is so invaluable to sustaining a business for long term. But the sales skills, you're not developing closing and sales skills from building relationships. I think that's something else entirely. So, and I don't think it replaces one another. I think it's just two separate things. And there's no way to really just nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to hear that the answer to developing sales skills is cold calling. Everyone's like, I don't like that advice, but sometimes there's just no way around it. That's just it. This is it.
Yeah, true. True. So who are you, what are your favorite books other than just cold calling to learn the foundations?
Well, I hate cold calling. I mean, it's not something I enjoy doing, but I do enjoy reading a lot. And I love reading fiction and novels. I love reading new novels. My favorite, some of my favorite series are the Lord of the Rings series and the Harry Potter series. So Fiction is a huge part of my life. It always has been. But now, after starting a business, I have to read a lot of nonfiction to learn marketing and sales and how to grow, mindset development. So I try to keep a balance of both. I'm always reading like 2 fiction and 2 nonfiction business related books all the time.
Per week?
Yeah, I do audiobook and I have a physical book, I have a Kindle, and I have audiobook. So I try to do it simultaneously.
Okay. So I also try to do that. So some like I'm trying to do like one thing that I try to do this 2 weeks for 2 weeks, but I fail miserably. Not fail me. No, I mean like not fail. I don't call it failing, but my way of reading or like learning is that I have the book. I have the PDF version of the book. I open it on Microsoft Edge and I hit read aloud. So like when it's playing, I'm seeing how it's the words. When I don't understand the part, and what I do, I read that again. Then I understand it. Usually I understand it because I'm pretty good listeners. I think I'm a pretty good listener. Yeah. So that's how I learned. And 2 weeks I tried to read 14 books, like two a day. So that, and usually the I don't know, maybe the most I did is 3 or 4. The 4 books a day. That was the most I ever did. But when I aimed to read 14 books in a week, I wasn't able to do that. Because there are a lot of tasks in my downtime. So that was actually my pivotal point. Actually, during my last pivotal point, I had a downtime, and at that time, as I had a lot of free time, so I was able to do that. But now, as I'm talking to, literally have to talk to a lot of people every single day. So that's when things get tough. You can't read 2 books a day.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this, Mahmoud. Were you always an avid reader, or are you just now starting to get into reading more?
I was never an avid reader. I started on November, and on November I finished around 20 books on November 6th to like the end of November on 20 books, and then on December in the month of December, I think I did 3 or 4 books because I was actually creating a branding framework. So I had an aim that I'm reading this to create a framework, and I had to create a framework for my business, for helping other businesses, because I have a branding company there basically. So that with that aim, I was able to complete a lot in a pretty short period of time, because I was getting a lot of information and verifying it, also talking with people, then just recreating it. And in the month of December, I almost read nothing. I guess 3 or 4 books compared to 20 books in a month. 3 or 4 books. There's anything.
So do you retain anything from that? From that, you went from 0 to 20 books in a month. Do you remember most of it, or have you forgotten?
I do. I do remember every single bit of it.
Wow, that's really impressive. So what I was going to say is, if you're not used to reading all the time, it's really difficult to go from 0 to hero, especially for reading. So people ask me all the time, like, how do you read so much? And how? And even with everything that I do, like you said, we all have a lot of tasks. I'm a mother. I take care of my son all day. I have a business to run. I have a family, a home to run. So how am I reading so much all the time? It's because I've always been a reader. So I read much faster than the average reader. So my reading speed is faster. Also, when I listen to audiobooks, I listen at 1.25 or 1.5 speed. So I'm consuming that audio more faster than someone else. I also do it at every single pocket of time. So when I'm driving, when I'm showering, when I'm folding laundry, I have wireless earbuds and I'm listening to a book. So those are some of the tips that I do to read more all the time. But I also think it's very unrealistic for someone who is not an avid reader to have these big, big goals. You definitely have to step it up. And as you read more, you're just going to get faster at it. So like you said, you use Microsoft Edge and they're speaking, maybe try increasing that speed. I don't know if that will reduce your comprehension, but if you want to get more in.
I do. I always do. So I will actually add to here that I just remembered that I don't consider, I never counted any book that I read. So when I started in, like, let's say 11th grade, I I used to walk from my home to school. And I had an earbud, or like on, like, say, like, so like an
Yeah.
earless earbud, and I used to download books and then audiobooks, and this
Yeah.
uh, it was playing in my ears. So during that period of time, I trained my ears to capture whatever is
Yeah.
listening.
That's why you're such a
So
good listener. Yeah.
yeah, in that time, I actually never count that. So from that, before reaching to the point of last year November, I actually finished, I don't know, maybe a lot of
Yeah.
books that I never counted.
Right.
I never counted. So I think that was a very good point, that why I was able to do that. And I
Yes.
actually follow what you said, that I actually max out the speed, not just a thing, but the max I can go. Like, I think four more there are four more speed levels, I guess, other than the normal one. And so I do the max and just plug it in and then listening. So that really works for me.
Okay, no, that's good. Well, you also want to make sure you're retaining the information and you're understanding. So comprehension is a big part of it. That you're not just listening at 5 times squirrel gibberish speed and say, "Oh, I read a book. I finished a book. I finished 3 books today, but I don't even remember the title of any of them." So I don't think that's good either. I'm actually learning. I like to make, someone I learned. He wrote a book. His name is Monish, and he wrote a book about a system of taking notes when you read. Because many times we're under this pressure that, oh, we have to read, we have to read. Everyone says you have to read, and we have to learn. But then you just read it, and you're not really retaining, or worse, you're not applying what you learned to your business to help yourself grow. So he had a really cool system of taking notes, where you can actually not just listen and read, but actually take notes and then refer to those note cards to apply to your business. So I really, as an avid reader, I don't think there's a point to reading if you don't apply what you're learning, or if you don't remember what you're learning. So I would keep those things in mind.
Absolutely, I completely agree with that. I also take notes. So as in Microsoft Edge, this is a really cool feature. You can actually take notes. There is a pen.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, there is a pen option, and there's like highlighted. So I highlighted that part. And the most important thing I would say, if you're learning, or you intend to learn fast, you should have an aim why you are learning this thing. So if you're learning this, so like the 20 books, the main or the only aim I had was to learn about the topics. How can I use it to create the framework? And that's why I actually only focus on those information. How can I make this better? And I just told that those parts only, and just let go of the others, because
Okay.
you don't need every single part of the book, every
Sure.
single
No,
detail.
absolutely. Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. When you're reading, yeah, you don't need every single part. And that's something I have to keep in mind, because as a reader, I was like, I just want to every single punctuation, everything, but that's not necessarily, that's actually silly. You only take what you need and then you apply it to your life. So very good point there, Mom.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. So the first experience of me reading books. So I'm not sure if we have more time. I think 6 minutes. So the first experience of me reading books were, other than the main books, the actual textbooks, were, I think the book was named You Win, like, I forgot. I forgot the
Okay.
name, but it was around 150 pages. I was able to read 60 pages, and it took me literally a month to read it.
Why was it so difficult to get through? That's fun.
I don't know. It was way before I ever listened to an audiobook. Like, it's way before that. The first audiobook was not even an audiobook. So it was a part of the book. a book. I think it was a favorite book of Bill Gates, and the chapter was about Xerox. That
About
was
what?
a Xerox, the company
Oh,
Xerox.
Xerox. Okay.
Yeah, the Xerox Corporation. So that was, and even that was, I don't know, like that was, I think 2 hour long, or not 2 hour long, maybe an hour long, and it took me days, like days after days, to actually finish that small book compared
Yeah.
to now what I'm doing. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's crazy, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's great that you point that you can see the journey and how far you've come. But I also think that sometimes when it's difficult for us to get through something, maybe we just don't enjoy it. Like maybe it's difficult for you because your brain is saying like, no, I don't want to read this. This is stupid or this is boring. So I realize that when I'm reading like fiction or a new story, I can't wait to finish that book. Like I don't want to go to sleep. I don't want to wake up because I just want to read and finish the book. But when it's something nonfiction and it's a little bit more dry or it's like more textbook type material, I'm just falling asleep before I even get to the next page. So I think our minds are also trained that way to tell us like, this is fun. I like reading this, or yeah, this is so hard. It's going to take me, I'm rereading the same paragraph over and over and I still don't want to get it in my head.
Yeah, this thing happens when you're learning a new thing. So like I don't read any fictional books. I read only non-fictional ones.
That's so sad. To me, that's
For me, I don't find fictional books interesting.
Okay.
Though I never tried it, that's why I don't find it interesting. So I might try it. So you might suggest me a few good books. I'll try it.
I would love to send you a recommendation because when I come across a lot of non-readers in my life, and I think it's all about recommending a book that they will enjoy, right? Because maybe the reason you don't read fiction is because you think it's a waste of your time. You know, you're not gaining any value from a fictional story. But maybe if you found someone you actually like, maybe you would shift your perspective towards that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I have in mind. So like, why do I even need to learn it? So the thing the thing I'm reading right now. So like the PP, like I'm learning about peer right now. So the first book about peer, the peer about dummies. So I literally fell asleep while learning it. Today in the morning, I was listening to that and I said and fell asleep basically because it was a completely new topic for me. I don't know about this yet. So that's what actually happens. And so I think we're very close to the ending point, and I don't want to waste more your time of yours. So so where can our listeners find you online?
Yes, thank you for asking. Well, first of all, this is definitely not a waste of my time. I truly enjoyed my conversation with you and helping you build your brand and your podcast. So thank you again for the honor of having me on. And if you want to learn more about me, I've got a website. It's drnoorhealth.com. That's drnoorhealth.com. And there you can learn all about me, my business. And if you'd like to get in touch, it's got my contact information as well.
Amazing. So we are going to have the links of the website with the description as well. And so I'll let you in the show and also in Bangla.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, we discussed it, right? So সবাইকে অনেক অনেক ধন্যবাদ যারা আজকে আমাদের শোটা শুনেছেন। আর কি বলবো? We didn't plan for this.
Yeah, it's really, that doesn't matter. Okay. The listeners found this conversation amazing, and thanks again for the listeners coming on the show and listening to the show. Not coming on the show, but listening to the show. Bye to our listeners, and thanks again for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.